Welcome to the Romanian Reaver channel and my first impressions of Surviving Mars, a Dwarf Fortress / Rimworld type game developed by Hemimont Games and published by Paradox Interactive. I can't really use the genres with this game because, well, Dwarf Fortress and Rimworld, which is inspired by Dwarf Fortress itself, are in a class of their own, really. I mean, what do you call them? Colony / 4X / survival / strategy games, something like that. And basically Surviving Mars is made in the same vein, though while it goes a wee bit more ham in certain terms with the settlement city building aspect more than Rimworld, for example, it isn't quite up to the level of Dwarf Fortress in terms of insanity, but what is these days, really. Before we get too much into it though, standard disclaimer applies. I was provided with a review copy of the game for the purposes of doing this video, i.e. this first impressions video. And yeah, to be honest, I do have a slight bias towards Dwarf Fortress. It's a game I would love to play, but it keeps bloody crashing on me. Now, to get into the first really important part, are the options well fleshed out? And short, yep, quite well indeed. Yeah, the resolution's a wee bit unique because, to be honest, while the game doesn't have any issues running for me even at 1080p, I usually run in windowed mode for personal reasons. Pretty much standard affair, not much to say here. The video options are quite well fleshed out. There's a few extra bits and bobs here that you don't see, for example, in games like Stellaris, which are appreciated, and the game itself at the current time is quite well optimized. It doesn't give any issues to my Xeon E3 1231V3 and Fury Natural running at this sort of level. Higher level anisotropy, or however you pronounce it, does give a wee bit of a headache for my GPU because it's VRAM limited, and at later stages of the game, yeah, it tends to balloon a wee bit in terms of frame deficit. But this level, if you have a 1060 for example, or a 480, yeah, or 580, you're pretty much golden for this game. The CPU might be a wee bit more intensive though. Wouldn't recommend anything underneath an i5 or a 1600. Now you have generally two options for starting off: easy or new. New gives you a bit more flexibility. Easy just probably pops you out in one of the easy factions to start off with. I haven't actually tried easy start at all because, to be honest, I'm like, nope. I want to see how hard the game can kick you in the nuts when you're trying, and yeah, let me just put it this way. Russia is very hard to start off with. I would usually run out of money. But once you go with the International Mars mission, yeah, things went a wee bit more swimmingly. There are still issues, but it's more appropriate for beginners, so to say, particularly ones who don't have experience in anything other than, say, Rimworld. In Dwarf Fortress, with Dwarf Fortress experience, you get a wee bit more oomph by playing at least not very easy to medium. The game also have a fairly decently fleshed out mod editor. But let's get on to new games and what sort of options you do have starting off. And then I'll show you guys a wee bit of gameplay from my saves. Now, you get mission sponsors. These will give you budgets, like for example these guys. Very easy. And you can do a lot of stuff. You don't really have to, I should put this, bother so much with other stuff. Like with Russia, for example, you have to be very careful with building off because Russians, yeah, they don't really have much of a budget. That's what, 1/6 the budget and 2/3 of the research, which does spiral out a wee bit. Yeah, there are good parts to the Russians, but at the current time with the way the early game and mid game is structured, earning money is going to be a bit more interesting. You could possibly do Russia with a politician, which gives you Martian patents, but it's gonna be an interesting proposition, so to say. The commander profiles give you various other extra benefits, or yeah, benefits per se, because the mission sponsors give you benefits, budgets, and downsides as well. And I do recommend actually playing the International Mars mission to begin. Don't go too ham like I did, because yeah, you do need a wee bit of easiness to begin with. The commanders, as I said, give you extra variability. They're more or less in your playstyle. For example, when I picked Politician, I do believe was the one I picked this time around, or possibly Inventor, possibly. These two kind of synergize more or less with my tendencies. Politicians more for the Russians, and Inventors more, if you really can't be bothered to be that structured with your base, which I really am not. I actually managed to wall off a deposit from myself from the dome, so to say. Besides those, you also have your colony logo, which is purely artistic. You know, I usually pick either Serenity or Curiosity. What was it? Mr. Handy. The mystery, these I have not worked around with at all, because I've played about 10 hours of the game so far. Bouncing off with the Russians was quite interesting, but I had to make sure to get both sides of the story, so to say, both novice and experienced player standings. Because I could have started directly with very easy and just been like, oh my god, this is the best game ever. And as such, my impressions are for the early to mid game. Late game, not really. Okay, so basically that's the whole gist of it. And to start off with, nice look to it. You get to customize your loadout. The loadouts themselves also vary by the sponsors you have. Like for example, in this case I'm Russia. If I go to International Mars mission, yeah, look at that, a lot more, including a transport and an explorer. The explorer, you need to scan out anomalies you find on the map via scanning the area you spawn in, basically, because each map is divided into sectors and each sector needs to be scanned down. This guy will go out and scan down any anomalies you found, and anomalies can usually be deposits, events which give you research, money, extra colonists, so on and so on. And as you can see, the Mars mission is also quite flexible, because you don't really have to worry about getting these guys. These guys are already included in your budget to begin with. Let me just head off. You also get to select your spawning site, so to say. My recommendation is, in terms of this, try and balance out as much as possible metals, concrete and water, because you need all of them. Concrete and water are pretty much quintessential for your domes, while metals are needed for your more or less energy side of things. And if you don't have one of these, yeah, you can run into a lot of issues. And for example, the threats, dust devils can wreck your infrastructure by basically, if a dust devil hits your building, it'll damage it and it'll force it into a maintenance mode. Maintenance mode, the structure does not function, but it's not destroyed. So you have to send out either a drone, well, usually if there's a drone hub in the area that has enough resources nearby to actually repair it, the drone hub will do that automatically. If not, you need to get a RC rover and a RC transport with the required resources out there to repair it. The storms basically shut down moisture reclaimers, or basically says even there. It shuts down your MOXIs, which are oxygen obtainers, your moisture evaporators, which are your non-deposit related water production facilities, And it also shuts down, what was it called? Stirling generators, which are one of the late game energy generation devices, and it's quite important to keep that in mind. And dust storms also increase the requirement for maintenance because it deposits dust on stuff. Meteors, basically meteors crashing down on stuff. If you're lucky, nothing happens. If you're not lucky, your dome gets a meteor in the face. And cold waves, basically, I should put this. It can fuck with your water supplies that sits there, it can fuck with your drones, and it fucks with your food supplies, so you have to be very careful. Farms and so on can be detrimentally affected, so yeah. There's a type of building which you can build after you research it, which counterbalances cold snaps to a degree, but yeah, it requires energy and maintenance. You hit start, then you go directly to the map after a small loading screen. Come on.
Welcome to Mars.
And this is what you get. Each map, by what I've seen, is randomly generated. I've tried to get the same map twice by landing in the same sort of area, and I've not seen it. And each map, as you can see, can pose various problems. Like for example here, I'm fairly sure I'd need a CO2 shuttle hub to get down from here, because I don't see any ramps visible. So yeah, I'm basically locked into this area. On the other side, being higher up means your wind generators will produce more energy. You research stuff by selecting. Initially you get some research from back home, depends what type of sponsor you have, how much and how long you get it. After a certain while you can build domes, which can get, like for example, where was it? No. I think it was in production. No, not production. There is research labs, which can produce about, I think, 300 research points per research lab, so you don't need very many of them to deal with things, so to say. You scan stuff by selecting like this, and you either use orbital probes,
anomaly found,
like that, or after a certain while you build structures which can scan from the ground. Like here, sensors. Basically that's the whole gist of the bit. You have to build resources. To begin with, you start off with drones. Once you have a basic enough supply of air, water, and other resources like metal, energy, concrete, and so on, you build a dome, you plonk it down, well, you plonk down the dome somewhere. Domes require concrete and polymers to build to begin with, if I'm not mistaken, and metal. You can import the polymers to begin with from Earth, which is one of the reasons you have to be careful with which sponsors you pick or how you're gonna do your build, so to say, starting off the game. Because, for example, with Russia, I ran out of polymers and I couldn't do diddly squat to build a dome. And I couldn't extract... where are they? No, these are not rare metals. Those are regular metals. Let me see if I can just locate...
anomaly found.
No luck. Basically, rare metal deposits which you ship back to Earth for money via rockets. The rockets stay on the ground, you can either salvage them, but that'll basically scrap one of the rockets, which will have to be rebuilt back on Earth, and which you have to buy, if I'm not mistaken. Or you can send it back to Earth standardly and also loaded up with about 30 units of rare earths. That's basically the early game, more or less. Now let's take a look at the late game a wee bit, just to give you guys an idea how it looks. Mind you, this is early to mid mid-game, so to say. It's not really anything impressive. But this is what you generally need for 3 domes with about, if I'm not mistaken, 90-ish settlers. The problem with this map is there's only one way this way, and drones need more research to get up to these sorts of areas without running out of battery or running dangerously close to halfway point, at which point you have to turn them back around to recharge them at a power grid. Standard water production facilities, both moisture evaporators and underground water extractors. I've already exhausted 3 deposits, well, 2 technically deposits of concrete via 3 extractors. I had to build another one over here. I had to build like so the extractors can be maintained to a certain degree. So yeah, it's basically an interesting game, so to say. And each colonist in and of themselves have desires, have sanity, have perks, have flaws which can appear also not only via birth or via the process of maturing and aging, but also via stress and so on, and you have to be careful, keep everything nice and balanced. Think of it in the sense I said Dwarf Fortress is like a survival sim. Well, think of it that way, but less demanding overall, so more player friendly. As a veteran of Rimworld and Dwarf Fortress I spent at least 100 hours in. Overall, I say the game is an interesting proposition if you're new to the type of genre, or if Rimworld itself didn't have enough bite to it for you. If you want more grand scale, not small colonies like, for example, one apartment has 24 people. In Rimworld, if you have 24 people, you're already at a pretty sizable colony. Some people almost always finish with 10 to 15 people in Rimworld. In Dwarf Fortress, yeah, things can get very insane. Think of this as somewhere between Dwarf Fortress and Rimworld, more or less, set on Mars. And not forgiving if you're not smart enough. And for 40 euros, if that sort of thing sounds appealing, okay, keep an eye on it. If it looks tantalizing, even, you know, looking at it unedited without some dude waffling on in the background about the game's merits, then yeah, it's an idea to purchase. If you're more or less meh towards Dwarf Fortress, you're like, I like watching people play, but not so much playing myself. If it's a 60% or 70% sale, it might be a proposition for you as a guilty pleasure, but be prepared to play with the IMM, the International Mars Mission, a lot, because yeah, you need money, you need support to begin with, and it's not easy. Even with the IMM, I kind of bricked myself in a wee bit. To get out of this sort of situation, I'll need another 5 to 6 hours, I'd reckon. But for people who like that sort of burn strategy, it's your type of game. Thank you for watching, or more precisely surviving up until this point, because gods know the editing's kinda interesting and my voice has a melodic tone to it. If you like what you saw, feel free to hit the subscribe button, like button. It does help out the statistics of the channel, gets more visible, you know, stuff like that. And to be honest, at one point I would like to actually make this a job so I can do better content with better quality, more games, more coverage, you know, stuff like that. Take care.